Hiya. So, if you have been in SEO for any amount of time, even if you've just started last week, you've probably heard about AI content tools. Um, I swear I've seen a new one released every week, and a lot of them are based on the same technology. Some of them have different bells, whistles, price tags, but it's all based around the same idea producing more content for less time or money. Now, I have. I actually don't know the exact figure off the top of my head. I would need to dig through a bunch of spreadsheets. But last year I spent tens of thousands of dollars on freelancers, and most of that is written content. I own a portfolio of websites, and for topics that I don't know anything about, I outsource, or even when it's topics I do kind of know about, but it's just a more scalable business model to have other people write the content. I outsource. I have ranted and raved about freelancers in the past. I'm not the best writer in the world. There are plenty of writers better than me, but there are a lot of very, I don't want to say bad writers out there, but writers that I wouldn't hire again, if that's maybe politer to say. If you look at somewhere like Flippa, which is the biggest website marketplace just now, you'll see the kind of content that works at the moment. So we use blue widgets as a common example in SEO. And you might well get a website for sale because it's ranking, and for blue widgets, it's ranking. The best blue widgets are widgets that are blue, and some of them are light blue. On this list, we have blue widgets that you will like. Keep reading to see which best blue widgets are blue and you like, and these widgets are good and you like. It just goes on like that. I've had non-SEOs mention it to me in the past, and recipes is a common example. If you Google a recipe for mashed potato, you get the chef's life story before you even get the ingredient list. And this is very much a case of don't hate the player, hate the game. This content works. Currently, this crazy long form content is what we tend to see. Not everyone does it. Sometimes the content is good. There are absolutely freelance writers out there who create good content that you want to read, but just so much of it makes your eyes bleed. And it's not entirely the writer's fault. Our problem is we pay generally, not everyone, but generally, as an industry, we're paying per word. So 1 cent a word, 5 cents a word, 10 cents a word, whatever it is. It incentivizes this waffle word count rather than paying hourly or paying for an article or whatever it is. Even when you do pay an article, but you tell them it's got to be 15,000 words long, or 10,000, but whatever it is, you're incentivizing waffle. So where I think the future is going to be is a combination of a good writer with these AI tools, and just pay them hourly, or pay them per project. You cannot replace your writer with AI tools. I know if you look at the Google search at the moment, there are a lot of automated sites out there doing strange things. That's never really gone away entirely. It's always been around with some form. Just now it seems quite prevalent, but I've seen some really peculiar stuff spat out from these AI tools. I had one which I just happened to catch actually, where it was threatening the reader. It was going to kill its family or something. Like, I don't. Sometimes your AI writes perfect stuff, and I'm actually kind of impressed by the technology a lot of the times. I'm like, that's. I don't know how you've got there, but that's perfect. We're just going to go with that. And sometimes it gets itself on a weird wee tangent, and then it follows that tangent, and all of a sudden it's off the rails entirely. So you can't just have an AI write your website, not if you're trying to build a quality website. No. I'm not saying AI websites aren't out there and aren't ranking or making money, but that's not my goal for this case study. I want to make good quality content and use an AI tool to assist that. So a couple of weeks back, I did test this. I took a site that I normally pay $50 for an article. It would normally take me an hour or so to write this content. I know it kind of sort of well enough to write about it. And I let the AI help me. So I tend to edit most of my articles anyway. There's a couple of writers I have that I trust them by this point to just publish the content themselves. They'll do a good job. I tend to spend 15, 20 minutes editing articles anyway. That's a different story. That's a different problem. I have quality control issues, maybe just control issues in general when it comes to websites. Not this YouTube channel. Case in point, I'm drinking coffee as we go here. But for the written content, I don't trust most writers to do it the way I want it done, so I tend to edit it anyway, which maybe defeats the point, but we'll not get into that. So I spent 20 minutes with this AI tool and produced, kind of accidentally, one of the best articles on that site. So it was an established site within a niche. It was a fairly low competition keyword, but the reported search volume for that keyword just turned out to be low on the keyword tools, and it was much higher in reality. So it's actually gone on to become one of the top pages on that website. It brings in lots of traffic, it brings in sales, and it was 20 minutes work. I would let the AI, I would give it prompts, I would let it start things, I would finish, sorry, knocked over my camera there, I apologize to anyone wearing headphones. So I would give the AI a prompt to start, I would edit it, I would kind of keep it on track when it would go off topic. Some of the content it wrote was great, some of it was crap, but overall it produced between my work and it, we had an article faster than I would have got if I wrote it myself. Just absolutely much faster, and it works. Now, I am saying it's one of the biggest sites on that page, one of the biggest pages on that site. Just to be clear, if you let AI write your content, that does not mean you're going to rank overnight. It doesn't mean you're going to rank top spot. It doesn't mean you're going to rank better. There are AI tools like Surfer and Phrase out there. There's arguments for and against those, but that uses AI in a slightly different way. AI content tools like Writer or Jarvis or whatever, they help you write more content in less time. That's it. It doesn't mean it's going to rank any better, but if you look at things like topical relevance, so if you want to write a website on coffee, if you have 100 articles about all these different types of coffee and how to make the best coffee and how to grind your beans in certain temperatures, then when you come to write about the best glass coffee mug, you'll rank better because Google knows you are a source that knows about coffee. So gone, not completely gone, but the days of having like a 10-page website are somewhat behind us when you can establish yourself as an authority with topical relevance. And for sites like that, AI tools can really help speed things up. So I had a case study of one article and that worked. And I wanted to kind of take things a little bit further this time. So goal is pretty simple. Get some content, get a lot of content put together with AI in as little time as possible. And we're going to do that on established sites. We're going to do that on maybe expired domains. We're going to do that with brand new websites. And we're just going to see if we can publish a lot of content very quickly, what happens. So there have been other SEO case studies in the past of people who publish, 500 articles in the first year, whatever that is, or people who publish 100 articles in a month. And obviously, if that content's good and you're picking your right keywords and your competition isn't too tough and there's something that you can monetize, it's going to work. So we're kind of just doing the same thing. The only difference is we're using AI to see how much we can speed this up. So I do have a write-up of the case of every case study I do on digitalassets.lab.net. I've got nothing to sell there. This is a hobby for me. This is my version of a hobby site because I like talking about this stuff anyway. So we do have some kind of pie in the sky numbers here. Yeah, let's take this as an example. So if I want to start a website, I post 100 articles on it. I then leave it to sit and I see how it does. So I'll post 40 articles in little sub niches, and I'll come back in 6 months, a year, whatever it is, to see how well that site is doing. My goal is, rather than keep on hitting on a site because I'm so determined that one's going to work, I don't get emotionally invested in a website, a niche, a topic, whatever it is. I will start a couple of websites at once. I'll get them all to 100 articles. I'll then come back and scale the winners, the ones that are working well, that are getting traffic, or if they're not getting traffic, maybe some sites get less traffic, but they have, higher conversions or RPM, whatever it is. But I that way I'm working on the sites that are going to win. So if I spend $45 an article, that site as a test would cost me $4,500. If I use AI content, under 10 minutes, 1,000 minutes, 16 hours, rounded up 20 hours. I'm reading my own content here, I'm not going to do that. Let's say we can build that site of 100 posts in 20 hours. Now, the first one I did was 20 minutes for the article. You can actually do it faster. It depends on the niche, depends on the topic, depends on the content. For this case study, I do have some other tools I'm using, some custom built in-house ones, to generate images and pull in keywords and things, just to get it kind of smoother, automate the process a wee bit. And then we're using AI tools to produce the content, and then we edit them. So I'm not going to produce those 100 posts in the click of a button. We are still editing, but our goal is to get that to around about 10 minutes an article. And I'm actually timing it. I'm using a site called Toggle to time each article, and that way we get an idea of, on average, how long it's taken us. So if we build one of those sites in 20 hours, which is definitely possible at 100 posts in 10 minutes or less, and we do what I'm doing for other case studies, which is we're finding sites with high traffic and low DR, then for 20 hours work, which is basically a part-time job, if we assume some low numbers and say it gets $250 a month with display ads, that's still $7.5 grand on a 30x multiple, which is perfectly doable. All these numbers, yes, they're pie in the sky, and there's so many variations here, but it is entirely possible you could build a site that sells for 7,500 in a few months' time, based on 20-ish hours of work. Yeah, that's some focused work, because editing it's boring unless you like the topic, but it's doable. Even if you do spend some money, I've got it here, assume you spend $2,000 on outsourcing some backlinks, like some outreach or some Harrow, whatever it is, that's still a pretty decent return. And a lot of those numbers are lowballed. So $250 a month would be a very low site by some comparisons, for sure. And a 30x multiple, you can definitely get higher these days. So yeah, and if we look at site number one, so I don't start a case study saying this is what I'm going to do, this is what I've been doing for the past, I think I started this a fortnight ago. So site number one is a new domain, I think a couple of weeks old, and it's in a sub niche of a niche that I don't really think I've ever worked in before, but I've kind of worked around it. I've promoted an affiliate product for it in the past. I kind of understand it enough to write about it, and there's a lot of keywords for it. So like any SEO project, I figure out how I'm going to monetize it. In this case, I think we're going to do a CPA thing, CPA offer. And I got a list of keywords, I got a list of competitors, I went through and got all their good keywords, and then we just started to produce content. I think, as it turns out, so far we're having really good results. So we are at 149,573 published words for this site, and that took, I'll be honest, I didn't time this one very well, but that was under 10 minutes an article, and that was a couple of hours. Like it was some intense work. Like that was boring as all hell. But the content is good. It's in an underserved niche, so our Our metrics are actually good. So here's the other thing. I don't know if I have the screenshot here on the site. I don't. We're going to have to get some analytics set up on this site, but I was looking at the log for that site. We're already getting about 25 visitors a day from Google. Not bot traffic, we're actually getting users. That site in, say, 3 weeks old tops it is already getting a couple hundred people, and it has got hops over to the offer. These are actually people who are, the metrics are good. The on-site page, they stay for a while, they're reading the articles, they're clicking through to other internal links. It's doing well. And part of that is because it's an underserved niche and no one else is really talking about it that well. The competitors we do have, they're not really focused on the main keywords, they're just kind of sub-keywords within it. It's probably not a niche I would do myself. I wouldn't write this content entirely myself, and I maybe wouldn't outsource 150,000 words. That'd be quite expensive for what would maybe be a relatively low return. I expect this site, it might get maybe $500 a month. That's my rough expectations at the moment. I could be wrong. This is some good early growth, but normally I don't start a website and see affiliate hits in the first like 2 weeks. Maybe bots, but these are actual people. So I'm pretty impressed by how it works, and part of that is just because it's underserved. Part of it might be because we are producing a lot of content very quickly, so we have a lot of content velocity there. I know some people say things like new websites shouldn't have more than 10 posts in the first month and things like this. I don't put any stock in that at all. I like to keep sites active, so I will post an article a month or two to establish sites just to kind of keep them fresh. I'll edit old posts and things over time. But a new site can have as much a new site can have as much or as little content on there as you want. And I think so far the growth on this one, it's been a very strong upward trend. When we start to update the case study, I'll actually show you the analytics for this. I'll have to put some Google Analytics on there, but even if we use Ahrefs for an estimation, like you can see the trend is going up. Because of how well that site is doing early on, my goal was to do like 100 articles and then just move on. We're probably going to push that one on towards a couple of hundred articles because I do think it'll make money. I think 500 a month is lowballing it. For the effort that site's going to take, we could probably make a decent return for little work. So we're going to keep pushing that one, maybe go for 1 million words of content. Site 2 is a weird one. Again, we did register a new domain, and this was another part of another project where I'm watching low domain, high traffic sites. I found one. It was like DR5 and it gets 50,000 views a month, some close to that. So we registered a new domain, and then I was quite surprised to see traffic come through for that domain to pages that didn't exist. So how do we look on Ahrefs? And I've owned a couple of hundred domains over the last couple of years. One sec. And this is the first time I've registered a domain that previously existed. Some people will warn you against this, to go and check the history of a site before you buy it. I don't really do that. I've never had to do that. I tend to use brandable domains that no one else is going to take, and I've never bothered to check in the past. Out of a lot of domains I've had, this is the first time where I've gone, oh. So this site used to exist. From what I can see, it has a clean history. It has a handful of links, nothing major, mostly redirectory stuff, probably automated. There's nothing there that I think is really going to swing the case study. I can't see a spammy history. It was parked for like 5 or 6 years. It does look like it was maybe a hobbyist who used to own it. It had a tiny amount of content, nothing really worth using again or rewriting or anything, and a handful of links. I think it was bot traffic that came through from some old stuff. There's been some weirdness. Google seems to be using an old meta name for it. Considering how long the site looks like it was parked for, I'm not even sure where it's taking that from. So this site could potentially have some problems just on that, but I'm hoping it won't, but we'll see. Other than that, It's a good domain. We're up against another site with very low authority and good traffic. Fairly low RPM, but it could be a good little cash flow, or we could flip it pretty quickly. And the reason I think this site is AI versus AI is I looked at the competitor and the quality of their content, and it's either a barely edited AI or a freelance writer who's not on the highest rate. The content isn't good. It's ranking, but it's the kind of content people will bounce back from a lot because it's just not great. I'm not saying we're necessarily going to beat it, but I am saying our content can be better quality without much work. So far, we're up to just over 2,000 words on that site. There's a lot of potential traffic to it. There are some affiliate offers we can do. We might just put on display ads. The RPM won't be that high, but it'll be, for the amount of work that site will take to build up, even to get to 100 posts, won't be that much for an easy cash flow. Yeah, so that one we're probably going to do 100 posts and leave it there. This was posted a couple of days. We're actually filming the video a couple of days after the case study got started. We are starting a third site, which is on an established domain. You'll tend to find people who know what they're talking about in SEO focus most of their time on existing sites. So if you publish content to an existing site, it's going to rank faster. It's going to make a return on that content faster. That makes it more scalable. So you have more money to put into other sites and projects and things. That makes a lot of sense. And I do invest on existing sites and projects, but I also have ADHD. I can't focus on existing projects. I get bored. So I do work more on new projects than old ones. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's how it works out. But site number 3, we're taking an existing site that has maybe 2 years of history. It has good topical authority. It has cash flow. It makes maybe $500 a month or so. And it has a lot of keywords we can add to it. So we've been putting together the AI for that. So we'll really dig into that site and the stats there on when we start to update this. But we're going to do a mix of websites. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of AI tools. The common one I see is, it won't replace a good writer. I think that's right. I think you can have a completely AI-driven website in the market currently. It's not part of my strategy because I don't think that's going to work long term. Not until the AI can actually write better anyway. At the moment, it's a tool. It's a tool that'll make your content production quicker. And the way SEO currently is, if you can produce a lot of content, a lot of good content quickly, you're going to make money. Add a bit of consistency and the right keywords, it'll work. So as with a lot of my projects, I am completely open to them failing. I don't think that there's this theory out there that Google is going to pinpoint AI content. I think that's true to an extent. The stuff that's just automatically generating and going off on its own weird tangents and producing content, you can maybe detect that to an extent. When it's an AI keeping a writer kind of on track and giving them ideas and preventing writer's block, it's really kind of indistinguishable from real content. So the one I posted to my existing site doesn't look that much different. You couldn't pick it apart from the other articles on that site, either written by myself or the writer I hire for that site. It looks the same. With a wee bit of editing, it has the same tone. It's kept on track. So I don't think that in itself is going to get any kind of penalization from Google. There's no reason for it to. It's just a tool that helps the writer write more. But the individual sites, the whole goal here is just to produce a lot of sites and see if it works and see what work well. Whatever sites work well, I'll probably flip or sell as starter sites, or we'll use that for a different case study, or maybe site 1 goes and becomes a cash flow by itself, and that's just another one for the portfolio, whatever it is. So site number 2 here might completely flop, but I don't think that'll be because it's AI content. It just might be the niche requires more than I'm willing to give it, or whatever it is. So the goal is a bunch of different sites, whole lot of content. We have no real plan for velocity, so our rough idea is 100 articles per site and see how that does. Site number 3 already has more than 100 posts, so we're obviously going to go beyond that. Site number 2, not that interested in, so we'll do 100 posts and see how that goes. Site number 1, it'll probably go to like 500 posts, maybe more, because I do think it'll work pretty well. It is an SEO case study, so we'll not have results overnight, but I will update as we go. I'll post this on some SEO forums and maybe some subreddits, and obviously here on YouTube or the site. If you're interested, follow along. If you have any questions, ask away. We might reveal some of these sites further down the line. I don't want the metrics screwed with early on, so we're not going to reveal them from the start. But so other than what domain is it, feel free to ask, and I'll try and answer everything I can. And we'll update when we have something worth updating. Site 1 is growing pretty well so far. I'll get some metrics for the next video, but I think if that continues, we'll actually get some results on there very soon for a new case study. If you're not used to SEO case studies, if I start a new site, if I get results in the first 6 months, I'm kind of like, oh, this is quick. SEO is a slow business, and SEO case studies are not, daily episodes because nothing happens. But that one might work quite well. But we'll keep updated with the word count we hit, the amount of posts, how well the sites are doing, and we'll add more sites to the case study as we go. And if I find better AI tools or better ways of working with them, we'll kind of show you that as we go. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.